Hi, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. It's a very eventful and exciting time in sports right now, so I hope everybody is excited and everyone's having a good day and a good week, and hope everybody continues to stay positive with this whole situation and with the pandemic and everything, because I think that we are starting to get to the time when things can start to go back to normal. So that's very exciting, and people are in stands at games now, so that's also very exciting. So everybody just remain optimistic and hopeful, and we'll get to that positivity, and we'll get to that point where we're going to be back to normal soon. So that's very exciting. I'm pleased to announce a very special guest that I have with me today. Very well known in the Boston sports community, Adam Kaufman. How are you doing today?
Normal sounds pretty good to me. I can get into that.
I mean, what is normal, really?
Yeah, that's what we're all wondering after this, I think.
I think the definition of normal is going to change a lot after this pandemic.
Well, it's just nice I know we're on camera, so it's just nice to see somebody who doesn't have a mask on, see what, someone looks like beneath the nose, basically.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's going to be weird going back out in public and seeing my friends or something like that when nobody's wearing masks anymore, because now I'm so used to people wearing their masks everywhere.
Well, I think we'll be in this for a little while longer, but yeah, we're heading in the right direction, no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. So that's very exciting. I just wanted to start off by having you talk a little bit about just how you got into working in sports and everything like that.
Well, I'm sure, past guests of your show have told you everybody's path is just different. I mean, nobody's is the same. If you had asked me back in high school what I wanted to do or what I would be doing at, this stage of my life, it's, I want to be the television voice of the Boston Red Sox. That was the goal. And then I go off to college at Syracuse and, obviously work my ass off, exposed to a lot of different things. And then, sort of keeping with the momentum of that dream. And my first job out of school is broadcasting minor league baseball. It was short season, single A, Auburn Double Days in the New York Penn League, and a glorified internship. I mean, it was, housing and food stipends and that sort of thing, but there was no actual salary. There was no paycheck. It was, like I said, it was basically an internship. But the team played, I want to say it was 79 games in 82 days. And maybe 2 of the 3 off days were travel days to another city where you're just on a bus the entire day. And I'm not saying that minor league baseball is anything like Major League Baseball. It's worlds different, but just that volume of work very quickly told me, I don't know that I want to spend my life on the road. I don't know that I want to, work every single day for how many, months and never see. At that point in time, obviously I didn't have a wife and kids, but it's like, how do you even, if you're doing this, how do you even find that? So it was kind of an interesting awakening, but that took me. I wanted to keep going in play-by-play, and that took me into hockey play-by-play, which is a much different schedule. Grinding in its own way, but a much different schedule than baseball. I did hockey play-by-play at minor league and college levels, a little preseason NHL action for a decade. And just along the way, got into writing and hosting and reporting, and hosted Boston local shows on the radio, national shows on CBS Sports Radio for a number of years. Was a columnist at the Globe's website. A lot of regional and local TV across New England, and now I do obviously a lot of radio and digital work. And so it's all, I mean, I could go on for hours just, like bullet pointing the path, but it's all, again, just to circle back, a larger way of saying everybody's path is different. And ultimately, as long as you land somewhere where you love what you're doing, that's the goal, especially in this business.
Yeah, and I feel like working in sports is such a rewarding business because so many people are sports fans and strive to be working in the industry. And I know from personal experience that it just feels amazing to be able to be involved in something that I love doing, and I would be doing at home for fun anyway, watching sports and just being surrounded by that community and getting to have so many discussions about sports with people all the time is just a fantastic feeling. And I think it's a great industry to be in. And I've been able to meet a lot of awesome people that are also as passionate about sports as I am. And I think it's just really awesome to hear how different people land where they are. Cause like you said, there's so many different ways, especially now, that people can break into the sports field. So it's just really cool to hear people's stories and how they made it happen for them.
Well, and back when, I was like to age myself, back when I was getting out of Syracuse in 2004, there were, people didn't have podcasts. That wasn't a thing. People didn't have blogs. Like, hell, Facebook didn't exist when I graduated from college. So it was, not to say we didn't have social platforms. Obviously, there was, AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. There was, MySpace was still a thing. Which I think maybe still exists, but nobody uses it. It was, it was a totally different time in the world. I mean, hell, you could make the argument that now 2021 is a totally different time in the world of content creation than it even was 18 months ago before the pandemic. This is inspired so much from, people like yourself and your age group and people that are, in high school and college and just, trying to figure out like how can I set myself apart? What's my niche? How can I be a little bit different? Because that's sort of one of the things that's as good as it is challenging. If you can find your path, if you can set yourself apart some way that garners you attention, a lot of people do it through Instagram or TikTok or whatever else. But at the same time, there are so many people. I mean, we're talking like thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. I have no idea, like tons and tons of people that are out there doing this stuff, trying to, get their big break, that it becomes that much more difficult to set yourself apart. So you got to work that much harder to try and find whatever it is. And it's, I'm in awe of it. I'm, impressed forever by all the people that are out there just grinding as hard as they are. And so am I, by the way, as I sit here pushing 40 years old. I mean, you have to grind for survival in this business, all to be able to, like you said before, just have the right to keep doing it and love what you're doing and get paid to talk about, write about, whatever about sports. Like, I mean, as you said, I'd be doing that anyway with my buddies on our group texts, with, get-togethers or seeing people at bars back when that was a thing. Like we'd all just be sitting there watching games, talking about games, doing whatever together. Anyhow, like why not make a living at it? And, for me, especially to be able to do it in the market where I grew up and I cover everything and everyone in a larger sense, depending on where I'm working. I mean, I may be tasked to cover the Cleveland Browns depending on what my assignment is that day. But more often than not, my focus is on Boston sports teams. And these are the teams that I actually genuinely care about. And there's nothing like that. I'm sure it's a great thrill to host a sports talk show in San Francisco or LA or, New York or whatever, I don't know, name your market. But these aren't the teams that you genuinely care about, that you grew up rooting for. It's just different. Like you have to put that much more effort into to have a passionate take about something that you otherwise, if you weren't on the clock, might not care that much about. For me, I mean, this is the stuff that I care about always, whether I'm on, a Zoom meeting or whatever talking about it, or if I'm just sitting around reading an article. So I don't know, it's fun. Like I said, I could ramble forever about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because, both of us being big Boston sports fans and growing up around Boston sports, it just makes it so much more enjoyable if those are the teams that you're covering, because those are the teams that I would primarily be watching on my own time as it is. And those are the teams that I really want to see succeed the most. And it's like, yeah, it's important to know what's going on with other teams within those sports, because it just helps to kind of form a better analysis and better opinions on your own teams that way, and just comparing them to other teams. But there's just not as much passion behind it when you're talking about the teams that you don't care as much, that you're not as passionate about seeing them win and seeing them succeed and watching games and getting paid for it, essentially, that you would be choosing to watch on your own time anyway. Whereas if I'm getting assigned to, like, this is just a random example, like an Indians Twins game or something to cover for work, that's not necessarily a game that I would be watching as much for fun on my own time. Whereas with Boston teams, those are the teams that I am choosing to watch outside of work anyway. So it's just an added bonus to land in a spot where you're covering those teams that you grew up with, that you're really passionate about and you just love talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, like, look at the NFL draft, round 1 tonight. I would be interested in the NFL draft on some level every single year. Just, where's this guy going to go? What's this team going to do? But I've never been more interested in the NFL draft personally than this one. I mean, ever in my lifetime, because of what surrounds the Patriots and the uncertainties at the quarterback position. It's one of the major talking points nationally, and it should be, obviously, because this is the first time that a draft has been this important, at least at on this level, for the most important position on a football field and arguably all of sports. The Patriots have never been so fascinating going into a draft in what, 30 years. They've had the quarterback position basically solidified. Obviously Brady for 20 and Drew Bledsoe before that. Like, now it's okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to trade up? Are they going to trade back? Are they going to stay at 15? Is a guy like Fields or Jones or Lance going to fall to them? Are they going to take, I don't know, trade back? There was one mock that had them trading back with the Packers to 29 and taking Davis Mills at the end of the first round, when it's, or are they going to wait for day 2 and take a Kellen Mond or a Kyle Trask? Like, it's just, I mean, for weeks I've been talking to people about this nonstop, because it's so relevant. And I wouldn't have nearly that level of attention to it if, like, Brady were still on the Pats. But this is the reality that we live in. So it all, you centralize it, to your point, to your own self-interest, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that too. With the draft, it's going to be a really exciting one this year, because there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of teams, I think, in terms of what their pick is going to be. But with the Patriots, I mean, yeah, this is a problem that they've never had to face before, that we're used to. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go about that, because all of a sudden you lose Brady, who was your guy for 20 years. And now it's like, wow, the Patriots actually need a quarterback. This is a new situation for them that we're not used to. So how is that going to go? I mean, a lot of people are saying that maybe they end up with Jimmy Garoppolo and they don't even draft a quarterback. And it's going to be interesting to see what the 49ers do with their pick. And I'm just intrigued to see how that affects everybody below them.
I just love, I mean, it's speculation season. Like, I was looking at, I'll pull it up while I talk to you. I was looking at Ben Volen from the Globe tweeted out earlier today, like, here, a mock draft roundup of where things stand right now. Mel Kiper, this is for the Patriots, trade up for Trey Lance. Todd McShay, it was Mac Jones at 15. You got someone else trade up for Lance. Justin Fields, Devontae Smith, Pete Schrager trade up for Fields. Bucky Brooks, Fields, Casserly, Lance, Florio, Jones, Volen, Lance, McBride trade down for Davis Mills. Nobody has a clue. Yeah. Nobody has any idea. And I don't say that to be mean or dismissive or question people's credibility or anything like that. This is historically, this is the way it works. Like, drafts, NFL, NBA, name your sport, it's a crapshoot. It's supposed to be a crapshoot. Nobody, if you knew the way that all these guys were going to perform for the next 5-10 years, you wouldn't have all these popular redraft articles that come out every few years looking back on draft. Teams very rarely get it right. Like, we were just talking about Tom Brady. If we knew the future, would Tom Brady have gone 199? Like, no, he would have gone number 1. That's the way this works. We have no idea. I mean, you can look at, again, It's Trevor Lawrence, it's Zach Wilson, it's Mac Jones, it's Trey Lance, it's Justin Fields, maybe in that order, by the way, who are projected to go in round 1 of the draft tonight. Maybe Davis Mills sneaks in at the bottom, or Kellen Mond or Kyle Trask, but let's just, I don't know, say those guys are day 2. So you look at those top 5. Historically speaking, if you were to look back on just the quarterbacks taken in the first round over the last decade, you could look at those numbers, and I don't have them in front of me, but I was looking at it the other day. Maybe, I don't know, based on just this draft, just to look at it at the 5, like one's going to be really good. Everyone believes it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, but who knows? One's going to be really good. A couple are probably going to be serviceable, maybe start for a couple years and then become career backups or something like that. And a couple of them are going to be out of the league in, 3 or 4 years. Like that's just the way this is. And teams are out there praying to get it right. And anyone, to dial it back to the Patriots, anyone who really thinks they know what Bill Belichick is going to do tonight, I mean, never mind that they're like lying to you, they're lying to themselves. Nobody has any idea what Bill is going to do tonight. None. No bleeping clue. Like, is he going to trade up? Is he going to trade back? Is he going to stay at 15? It's going to depend. Is he going to deal for Garoppolo, like you said? It's going to depend what happens on the board ahead of him. No one knows what the Niners are going to do. Or is it going to be Mac Jones? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Is it going to be Justin Fields in a wild card, even though everyone says it's not going to be? Or is everyone says the draft starts at number 3? Well, I mean, maybe the reason that the Niners haven't shouted out who they're taking is because it's not a lock that Zach Wilson goes at number 2. Maybe the Jets surprise everybody and take Justin Fields, who's viewed by many as the second best quarterback in this draft. The only true lock that, like, if you're sitting there on a sports book, I would advise you don't make this bet because it won't make you any money, is Trevor Lawrence at number 1 to the Jags. Like, that's the only thing that we know with certainty. After that, it's a guessing game. It is a total guessing game. And maybe the Niners, maybe Zach Wilson's their guy and they're just hoping he falls to them. And that's why they're not talking about this. And I mean, hell, like listen to like Kyle Shanahan the other day say that, well, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be on your roster at the end of the draft? I don't know if we're all going to be alive come Sunday. What the hell does that mean? Like everyone's going to just, Thanos, and half the world's going to disappear, because we don't know Jimmy Garoppolo's future. It's like I said, it's the silly season. It's speculation season. It's just fun. But, we're not going to know until we know. That's just reality.
Yeah, that's why I'm at the point now where I just want it to happen. And I just want to know what teams are doing, because anybody can speculate and anybody can be like, well, we can take Fields here, or like this team's going to take Mac Jones here. And it's like, well, nobody knows. Nobody's going to know until it actually happens. And so I like the suspense being built up, and I like looking at and reading what some people's predictions are about who's going to land where. But at this point, I'm like, okay, we've had all this speculation and it's been building up. So let's just have this happen now and see who picks where, because nobody's going to know until that actually happens. And I feel like there could be a lot of surprises tonight. So I think people need to just wait, and wait and see what happens. And when it actually happens, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, days of speculation is fun. Weeks, months, let's just go. Let's have it already. Let's find out what's going to happen.
Exactly. I think I'm really excited, though. I think it's going to be a fun night, and I think it's going to be a fun weekend overall. But tonight in particular, and I know people might not be happy with some of the picks that come out of this draft or who's taken when, but you brought up a good point when you said nobody knows for sure what the future is going to be for these players. Nobody knows who's really going to be a good option long term. So it's about just trusting the system and trusting that who you pick is going to be the guy later on.
Just remember, there was once upon a time a passionate debate, a long-standing, passionate, days, weeks, months, however long debate of, who should go number 1, Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf.
Yeah.
We don't know. We just don't know what these guys are going to be once they actually get there. Leaf is arguably the biggest bust in history, like across sports, never mind just the NFL. And then Peyton Manning is obviously, some will say he is the greatest to ever play the game. So, I mean, that's a hell of a spectrum for a debate that existed going into the draft. And we could be looking at that again tonight. I mean, we all think this is just a great QB class. Maybe it's not. We're going to find out soon enough.
I mean, yeah, nobody's going to know until they're actually in the league playing. So we might as well just trust in what we're doing here and just see what happens and see how this pans out when they actually step onto an NFL professional football field.
Yeah, I mean, people, including me, by the way, will freak the hell out if the Patriots draft Justin Fields in a good way. And guess what? He might suck. We
don't know that right now.
Like all we can do is live in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know that, and it's going to be fun. And I do think there's going to be a lot of really happy Patriots fans if he does go that way, and we do get him. But it's all just. It's based on who they think that is going to be good long term, and you just never really know. I mean, even Tua this past season didn't really live up to his expectations, and there was a lot of hype around him coming into the league too, and you just really don't know.
Yeah, that jury's still out on Tua. I mean, people still are not certain. Yeah, which is why some think, and I don't believe it's going to happen, but some wonder if the Dolphins are going to draft a quarterback. I don't see it, but there's a reason that all those Deshaun Watson rumors have had him connected to Miami, to the Jets, to Carolina. Obviously not anymore now that Sam Darnold's there and Teddy Bridgewater's out, but it just, teams are not satisfied until they got maybe not a star, but a guy that they know what he's going to give you for better or worse. And you don't know yet from Tua. You don't know yet from a lot of these guys.
Exactly. That's why I'm so excited, and it's going to be really fun, and I'm interested in seeing what the Patriots do and how Belichick handles this draft, because this is probably going to be the most interesting draft on record from the Patriots that we've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that he can do with those picks.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to the trades, whether it's round one or otherwise. There are going to be deals when Belichick's involved.
Always, yeah. That there's going to be some sort of surprises, and he's going to keep everybody on their toes.
10 picks right now, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how many guys he actually ends up drafting over these few days.
Yeah, definitely. One quick thing I wanted to touch on before I let you go is just the Celtics, because now we're reaching the home stretch here in the regular season before the playoffs, and I'm not really liking overall what I'm seeing, and my confidence level keeps decreasing for them when it comes into the playoffs. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I just think, I feel about this team the way I have all year when we've seen, the slides and inconsistent play and lackadaisical effort to, earlier this month where we had a 6-game winning streak and it was like, oh my God, everything's fixed. Of course it wasn't. And it didn't, you would have been fooling yourself to believe it. But what I think these different spectrums have shown us is that this team is probably one that goes out in the second round. That's how I felt about them going into the year. It's where they are, right now. You could look, I really wouldn't be surprised by anything. And what I mean by that is, if this team falters and goes out in the play-in tournament, I wouldn't be shocked. If they go out in the first round, I wouldn't be surprised. If they get healthy and hot and make a run to the conference final, I'm not going to be shocked. It probably is going to be, split the difference, wind up in the middle, and they go out in round 2. I just think that, a lot of it's not their fault. They've been hit by injuries and COVID, health and safety protocols, everything else harder than any other team in the NBA over the course of this year. A lot of bad luck, obviously, and, whatever else you want to attach to it. But there isn't, when they're not fully healthy, there isn't enough there. There's only so much that, all-stars Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can do for you. And, some of their leadership has been called into question over the course of this year. We know that. And I don't make a big deal out of that because we're still talking about two guys that aren't even in their prime years yet. They're, in their young 20s. There's only so much really that should be thrust upon them beyond just going out there and performing and maybe leading by example on the floor. But, in terms of being vocal leaders and true like captains, if you will, there's only so much that we should be expecting from those two guys as compared to a Marcus Smart or a Kemba Walker and guys like that. But Walker, he can only play in about half the games, can't play back-to-backs. Smart hasn't been able to stay on the floor for one reason or another. Tatum obviously is still recovering from the COVID situation, isn't completely always himself. Brown's dealing with nagging injuries. Fournier, the big trade acquisition, missed almost a month after they acquired him recently because obviously he got COVID. Some of the younger guys, whether it's Pritchard or Neesmith, again, they're rookies. There have been some inconsistencies, as you would expect, in their games. Some of the veteran acquisitions haven't totally panned out. Like Thompson, for the most part, has been fine. Teague didn't pan out, which is why he's not here anymore. Robert Williams, who, should be this team's center of the future, can't stay on the floor because of injuries. So there's just there's not enough there, and people want to blame Brad Stevens. It's more, and in fairness, he owns this. It's more Danny Ainge. He's the general manager or president of basketball operations. Call him what you want, but he's the one that built this thing. He is in charge of roster construction, and the roster's flawed. It's flawed, and so I wouldn't bank on a deep playoff run if I'm a Celtics fan right now. I'd be more excited about what the Bruins are doing between the two garden dwellers.
Yeah, the Bruins are looking really good right now, and they're a team that I could actually see making some noise in the postseason this year. But it's just been very, very frustrating with the Celtics, and it's just not a team right now that's built to compete with teams like Brooklyn or like the 76ers or even the Bucks and teams like that. They're just not as good as those teams, and the reality of the situation right now is that you have the young stars in Brown and Tatum, but we need to keep building from there. And it's just they still haven't done enough to really be able to be serious contenders with some of those other teams.
Well, thank God the kids, Tatum and Brown, not that they're kids anymore. Obviously, they've been in the league a few years, but, thank God they're under contract for the long term, because that, short of someone pulling a James Harden or a Paul George or whomever and, forcing their way out of town, then you can build this thing around those guys. For anyone that suggests trading them, I think that's nuts. They're not superstars yet. And there are people out there that are listening, I'm sure, that would say, what the hell do you mean Jason Tatum's not a superstar? He's not yet. He's a star. He's a budding superstar. And that's true of Brown as well. These guys are not, just no doubt about it, top 10 players in the NBA at this stage. Could they get there? Tatum especially? Absolutely. But they're not there yet. And so, we have to be, it sucks, but we got to be kind of patient with this thing a little bit. To your point about some of the teams that they would have to potentially go through, it's about matchups, right? They don't have the defensive. I don't even want to say they don't have the defensive talent, because I think they have a lot of good defensive players on their roster, but they certainly have not shown the defensive ability and consistency and give a bleep meter. The effort that goes into playing defense, they haven't shown it this year to contend with a team like the Nets when they're at full strength, or even when they're not. They lost to a team that only had Kyrie Irving the other night. Durant didn't play and Harden didn't play. Now, granted, the Celtics weren't at full strength either, but you need to, they don't have what we need to see defensively to slow down a team like that. And as far as a Philly or a Milwaukee, like you don't have that presence in the middle, at least that we've again seen, whether it's Williams or Thompson, unless they're going to show us some next level something we haven't seen yet. How are you going to stop Giannis? How are you going to stop Embiid? Like Tice wasn't that guy. It's part of why he's not here anymore. More of that is contract, but they're just not built to take down some of these Eastern Conference contenders, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The real irony is to this whole thing is, and I'm not saying last year's team should be what they aspire to in terms of roster construction, although they are absolutely feeling the loss of Gordon Hayward. Not that he's playing right now. He's hurt for Charlotte again. But the like that team in the bubble last year, regular season into the playoffs, played about as well as any Celtics team we've seen in years. They were locked in. They were awesome. And if they had gotten through Miami, I don't believe, just to again, preface, I don't believe they would have beaten the Lakers in the finals. LA still would have won that championship, but it sure as hell would have been more competitive than what Miami gave them. They would have put up a fight at least, but they were better suited to face a team like that than some of these teams in the East they got to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. That team last year had me really excited, and I really genuinely thought that they were going to get past that series and they were going to go to the finals. They were really locked in, like you said, and they were playing really good basketball down the stretch, and everything was really clicking together. And then Miami just, that was ended up being a really good series, but Miami played really well, and it just is what it is. And it was frustrating to feel like they kind of just declined this year from that. And it just is, just the defensive inconsistency, and they have not been shooting well from three either lately. I mean, it's frustrating, and there definitely is a hole there without Gordon Hayward, and it does make a difference, and it's just disappointing to see that. And I agree with you on the young players that we need to give them time, because once they develop, I mean, that Brown and Tatum combo, I hope they never let them go, because those are two players that are going to be so fun to watch continue to develop and grow on this Celtics team as long as they're here. So I hope that they hang on to them, but they definitely need to make some serious moves in the offseason as well to kind of keep building this team up, because right now it is not a team that can make a serious run, because there's just other teams in the East that are just better than them. That's what it comes down to.
Not easy to be Danny Ainge right now.
No, it's not at all. I mean, I'm happy that he made a couple moves at the deadline, but I think that there's just still more work that needs to be done there. But obviously, I'm going to be rooting for them. I just don't have high expectations at all for the rest of the season.
Well, you and me both.
Well, I really enjoy you sitting down with me and taking the time to be on the show today. I definitely really appreciate it, and I look forward to the draft and seeing your reactions during the draft on social media. So good luck with everything, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Boston Balling. I really appreciate everybody's constant support, and I'll talk to you all next time. Happy draft night.